So thank you all for being here. We're going to begin our afternoon service, and we're going to begin with a song that I think most of you know. This is well, I'll tell you, the composer of this song was recently featured in a movie, the Bob Dylan story, right? I don't know if anybody saw that. I forget what you call it. Blowing in the Wind. No, it was called A Complete Unknown.
It was a biopic?
A Complete Unknown. Yeah, it was a biopic with Timothy Chalamet, Jewish. And so Ed Norton played Pete Seeger, right? Pete Seeger, who was a mentor to Bob Dylan. And Pete Seeger famously wrote a song based on Ecclesiastes, based on the Jewish Bible, Kohelet, otherwise known as Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes, I saw it a second ago. Where was the... Yeah. But it said like the verse...
I'll do it?
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8, if you're keeping score. You know the song, right? Turn, turn, turn. So how appropriate for the High Holy Days where we're returning to the best within us, returning to others. So Cantor's going to lead us, and please join us if you know.
Yes, please sing along.
Turn.
To every seething turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven.
Thank you, Cantor. Heaven's a good place to leave us, and we're now going to turn in our, speaking of turning, let's turn to page 327 in our prayer book, page 327. So I say heaven's a good place to leave us because we're in preparing for our afternoon service. We have the story of the famous, awesome story of Jacob, and our ancestor Jacob Yaakov having a dream. And in Jacob's dream, on page 327, Jacob saw a ladder set on the ground with its top reaching the sky, reaching toward heaven, and angels of God were ascending and descending the ladder. So our sages taught, the Holy One said to Jacob, Jacob, you must climb the ladder as the angels are, you must climb as well. But Jacob was afraid, and Jacob didn't climb up. So, too, we want to climb higher, but we're tired, and there's so much to do, and we don't know how to ascend sometimes. God of becoming, whose name means I will be what I will be, or I am who I am, you are the unfinished one, ever unfolding, evolving with your creation. Made in your image, we too are fluid, ever becoming who we will be. Dear God, keep us alive to possibilities. Show us a path to grow in mind and in heart and in spirit. Help us find the strength to ascend. So that's what we're doing today, is we are attempting to ascend. So we're going to ascend right now through the inspiring story of Jonah in the Bible. Jonah is an amazing book. I never fail to be impressed by the book of Jonah. It is short. It is 4 short chapters that are only 3 pages long. So calling it chapter it gives you the idea it's longer than it is. It is 3 pages of a book. It is 48 verses, 48 sentences in total in the entire book. And the themes, as we are going to see in today's dramatic reading, that is written by my colleague and Cantor Allison's good friend, Rabbi Jonathan Aaron, down in West LA. Rabbi Jonathan Aaron has written a dramatic reading for us. And so what we're going to do today is we have some people to do the dramatic reading, 3 thespians, we shall call them. Huh? What'd I call you? Yes. We have 3 dramatic readers today. James Aguiar and Dan Gebhardt and Joyce Moskowitz are going to be reading this dramatic interpretation of Jonah written by Rabbi Jonathan Aaron. But before they read, we want to get a little taste of what Jonah sounds like in the Hebrew. So to lead us in the Haftarah blessings of Jonah, we are honored to now call upon Deb Johnson. Deb's going to be doing the chanting before at page 342, and then Martha Sensel, who is a wonderful chanter of Torah and Haftarah, and Martha and Jan Sway have been coordinating all of our participants for these high holy days. So kol hakavod, way to go, Martha. Martha, also, person of many talents, is doing the first 3 verses of Jonah, which you can find on page 344. So Deb's going to lead us on 342 in the blessing before. Then Martha is going to lead us in the first 3 verses of Jonah from Ketuvim, from the writings. Or I'm sorry, from the prophets. What am I saying? From the prophets, Nevi'im, the second section of the Tanakh. And then after that, we are going to hear James and Dan and Joyce with the dramatic reading of the Jonah story. Do you guys want to do it up here? You want to do it down there? It's up to you.
Where would you like us?
Wherever you'd like to be. Dealer's choice. Okay. Come on over, guys.
Okay.
And you feel free to position these mics. We got the 2 mics.
Okay.
In front of a mic there. I want you to hold the mic.
That's
You
good.
Yeah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo Uvinvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Vayehi devar Adonai el Yonah ben Amittai lehemor kum lek el Ninveh ha'ir ha'gedula ukra aleyah Ki al taratam lefanai Vayahakom Yonah Livroach Tarshisha Milsanei Adonai Vayered Yafo Vayimtzaha Aniya Ba Tarshish Vayiten Sakara Vayered ba lavo imahem Tarshisha milefane Adonai.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Deb. Okay, we'd like to call up our dramatic readers to please write down here so everybody can see you. Yeah, you want to come on down, Deb, and then we'll do the blessing after when they're done. I just want to, I've got low blood sugar. Did I mention, as well as Martha, according to Jan Sway, did I mention Jan? Yes. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you, Jan.
I took a small one here, just to be sure.
It's a moment.
Jonah, spoken word by Rabbi Jonathan Aaron.
This is a story about a prophet.
A reluctant prophet.
His name was Jonah.
He was asked to reverse the fate of a city with sinners from end to end. Nineveh took 3 days to walk through. It was as big as any of the day, and the sinners' sins were big in the city of Nineveh.
God asked him to go and asked them to change. Give them the time to change their ways. But Jonah didn't believe they would change. Why would they change if they always act this way?
They were murderers and cheats and stealers and worse. They spent their lives chasing greed, ate their time with atrocities. So why should they change? How would they change? How could he ever change them?
Into the sea. Jonah went in the other direction, away from the sinners, but sinning himself by disregarding God. Where was his love for those people? Where was his humanity? In the same place where it was found yesterday. He convinced himself to go out to the sea, into the Mediterranean, to people in a city who were afraid to sin against God. Above, the city of Tarshish, a city with people not like the Ninevites, who could be. They were choking each other and biting the hand that warmed their nights. He convinced himself to go out to sea,
Where he wouldn't be found.
Where he couldn't be heard.
where he can escape his duty. He convinced himself to go out to sea, into the Mediterranean. So he hopped on a boat with some idol worship sailors to Tarshish.
Cannot run, cannot hide. He lay in the belly of the boat. A storm raged above on deck. The sailors were praying, but to no avail. They were praying to the wrong gods. How odd was this prophet, Jonah the sleeper, closing his eyes to the truth of the storm. Jonah was sleeping, and the boat tossed and turned, and the sailors cried out, "Get yourself on deck and pray to your God."
Jonah knew better to open his mouth with prayers to his God that would not suffice.
Throw me overboard, and the storm will stop, and I alone will be in the sea with my God, with my fate, and you will have each other to offer to your gods another night.
The sailors closed their eyes and threw him to his death. And as the waves caught him, they saw him disappear
To the deep.
to the dark.
Into the waves.
And the storm stopped. A calm took over the sea.
The sailors bowed and became believers. And Jonah floated and sank and floated. And then he hovered just under the surface of the deep.
In the fish. Jonah stared up from under the sea. The stars peered down from the sky, and Jonah felt nothing but the end of his life. It was near, he thought, and he knew. He knew he deserved the fate that was ahead of him. But out of the deep came the largest of its kind, a fish like no other, created for a purpose. A mouth opened wide to swallow him whole. The prophet Jonah, who escaped from the land, who was thrown to the sea, and now living in a living cave, a haven in the deep, a home in the depths of the belly of a fish.
To wait,
To think
To exist.
for 3 days, for 72 hours, alone, alive, to wait and think and contemplate his fate,
his existence.
his mission.
His life. After 3 days' time, the fish spit him out, and he flew like a bird with a water comet tail. On the edge of a continent, he came to rest.
He raised his eyes.
He saw the future.
He saw his life.
He saw his way.
He saw
He went.
failure or success. Jonah was alive. He survived the trauma of the sea, was behind. He made his way on foot, miles and miles, with a goal in mind, with a goal in sight. He strutted through the desert like he had somewhere to go, and his mind filled with success about his mission to Nineveh.
They lived with excess.
They disregarded law.
They cavorted through town.
They were barely human.
His mind went on and on, how he would warn them or inform them that they would die in 40 days' time. He amused himself with a muse in his mind of stubborn people staring at death feebly, death staring right back. One by one, he'd see them pass, their last breath like a mist wafting up to the sky. He arrived at the scene, one day's walk through the city. He stood up proud and pronounced to the crowd,
40 days more and Nineveh will be overthrown.
There, he had done it. There, he had said it. Success was at hand. But wait,
He had to wait.
Wait.
Waiting.
for God to strike.
Just 40 days and nights. He can't wait. Wait to see the moment he would become a prophet. Turn, turn, turn. The wretched,
The corrupt,
The sinful.
the Ninevites, they believed God. The king was full of remorse, asked everyone to change their course, their lives. They stopped eating. They put on sackcloth. They changed the way they lived, the way of the place. They turned things around into something else. They heeded the call to one and to all, afraid to be the victims of a revengeful God.
have mercy on us.
They cried,
Be like the God of Abraham, who turned back the call to sacrifice his son.
"We are your sons and your daughters, and we see that we have been evil. We can be better." And they turned and became more human, became softer, became warmer, and became responsible for one another. Every day they turned. For 40 days they yearned for God to relent the decree, and they pleaded for compassion, and they prayed for liberation, and they saw the future was as darkness could be. God peered into their hearts and saw truth and love and pain. A veil was lifted from the evil of their past. At last, God relented and took back the plan of destruction and death. Nineveh would not be like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Jonah was upset,
Jonah was grieved.
Jonah was a failure.
was anything but relieved.
He promised pain. He promised death. How could he show his face without being mocked?
As a fake.
As a phony,
As a prophet not worth his word. He scowled, he pouted, he thought, how absurd.
Why do you care? Jonah knew in the back of his mind that God was gracious and full of kindness, and that's why he ran and fled to Tarshish. This was a job doomed from the start, and now he was a fraud, he thought. He couldn't show his face. He pleaded and prayed to die with haste than to live with disgrace.
are you that upset, Jonah, that they lived?
Are you grieving for the lives saved? Or are you anguished that they are no longer depraved, but human beings again?
Jonah fled once more and took up on a hill, built a shaded sukkah to rest, to regroup, to see what will happen now that he was wrong. And while he rested, God gave him a gift, a gourd, a growing plant for shade and for thought. Jonah loved the fruit. He loved the plant. He stopped thinking for a moment about all he had planned and instead baked in the shade of God's creation.
Finding peace in his heart,
Finding comfort,
finding sleep.
When he awoke, the gourd was gone.
he had nothing to do with its life.
He had nothing to do with its death.
The sun scorched his face red and burning. He realized that everything he thought as true and real was ephemeral at best and temporary at worst, and so was he, becoming faint and woozy. He reacted as people do with pain and suffering over the loss of his gift.
He pleaded again for his life to end.
He couldn't go on. He couldn't pretend.
That life had no meaning without the gourd.
Epilogue. God held Jonah in God's palm and caressed him with words in the center of his mind.
So much pain you felt for yourself on account of the gourd.
God said,
Yet you had nothing to do with its existence.
You didn't plant it.
You didn't care for it.
You didn't destroy it.
You had no connection to it.
There are 120,000 human souls in the city who came to life through my own breath.
my creations, my children, who knew not their right from their left.
Who knew not the difference between themselves and the beasts? Should I not care for them? Should I not wish for them to be human?
Deb, if you could, let's do the blessing after for that beautiful, moving rendition of the Jonah story. So we are back on page 351. Page 351 for the blessing after.
It's the first time I've ever been too tall for something my whole life. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol haolamim, tzadik b'chol ha'adorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, hamdaber umkayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al hanvi'im, ve'al yom ha'kippurim hazeh, Shanah lanu, Adonai Eloheinu, limchila v'lislecha ulchapara, lechavod ultifaret, al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, uvmarchim otach, yitbarach shimcha b'fi chol chai, tamid leolam va'ed, Udvarcha emet v'kayam lad. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mochel v'soleach, la'avonotenu, v'la'avonot amo beit Yisrael, uma'avir ashmotenu, b'chol shana v'shana. Melech al kol ha'aretz, mekadesh Yisrael, v'yom ha'kippurim. Amen.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you so much. Our thanks again to Jeb Johnson, to Martha Sensel, and to our wonderful readers of the Jonah story, to James Aguiar, and to Dan Gebhardt and Joyce Moskowitz. Many thanks. Our thanks also to Rabbi Jonathan Aaron and Cantor Allison for reaching out to Rabbi Jonathan for that very dramatic reading and telling of the Jonah story. Forgive me, I like to state the obvious. And if you're wondering, well, what does the story of Jonah have to do with Yom Kippur? It's really laid out for us beautifully on the bottom of page 343. Is actually a wonderful, this whole page really expresses all we need to know about the book and the story of Jonah on page 343. But just to, the moral of the story is right there on the bottom of page 343. Why do we read this book on Yom Kippur despite its farcical elements of the fish and Jonah and just everything going on? It eloquently conveys themes appropriate to the holiest day of the year. Universalism, the intrinsic worth of all human beings, that we are all created B'Tselem Elohim in God's image, including our worst enemies. The Ninevites were the ancient Israelites' worst enemies. They destroyed northern Israel, and the 10 lost tribes that we talk about, that was because of the Ninevites. So there was deep animosity amongst Jonah for the people of Nineveh, and he did not want to go there and preach God's love and forgiveness. So the intrinsic work of all human beings, our responsibility for one another, God's compassionate care for all living things, the power of tshuva, repentance that the Ninevites did, and the human capacity for change. It is all there in 40-some sentences, 3 pages. It's all there. So that's why it's chosen for Yom Kippur. So we have chosen to do something on Yom Kippur. We did this last year, and we're going to do it again this year because I think it was very well received. We have 2 options now for the rest of our afternoon service. One option is to go to the chapel in just a moment and to hear a number of folks who are going to be participating in the reading traditionally for Yom Kippur. When I say traditionally, in Reform and maybe some conservative settings, we read the book of Leviticus, Parashat Kiddushim. It's what's called the Holiness Code, a very powerful passage. And Martha Sensel, I think, is doing double duty today. Martha, you've got a Devar Torah that you've written, a short Devar Torah, short but powerful. Martha is a great writer and great interpreter of Judaism, as well as a chanter of Torah and Haftarah. So, and Billy Weiss, our ritual chair, is going to be chanting from the book of Leviticus in the chapel. Martha will be doing a Devar. We've got other people participating. So that is one option at this time. The other option is if you'd like to remain here in the sanctuary for a more contemplative moment. We're going to, be sitting in silence, and there may be some music at some point too that Sandy Stein, our wonderful musician, is going to be sharing with us. And we're going to allow, this is almost like a kotel moment. If you've ever been to Jerusalem and you go to the Western Wall and people go to the wall, it's very powerful, and they pray before the Western Wall. We've got our version of that here. So here is our kotel. Here is our, hey, that's a Western Wall. This is our Western Wall. It's actually west, right? So this is our Western Wall. We're going to open up the Aron HaKodesh, the Holy Ark. And if you would like to come stand before the Ark and the Torah scrolls and maybe offer a prayer that you have in your heart at this time of year, it's an opportunity for people to go before the open Ark and offer their prayers on this holiest of days. So we've got those 2 options right now. So Torah reading in the chapel, remaining here for prayers and contemplative and a prayer before the open Ark. And so at this time, we would like to invite you to make your choice, and then maybe we'll all meet up at the end. If we don't meet up at the end, we will certainly meet up for Yizkor that's going to be occurring at about 20 minutes or so. Yeah.
And if anybody who is feeling intimidated to walk up to the Ark or whatever, I will lead the charge. So you can come up with me if you'd like. You can sit quietly where you're at. But we'll see you wherever we see you.
Yeah, we will see you.